Join me every month for the inspiration to find your finish line. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Find Your Finish Line, presented by Active Ice, the official topical pain relief partner of IRONMAN. I'm Mike Riley, your host, and thank you very much for joining us. This podcast is not only about you being able to find your finish line at a race or an event, but in life. Every day, we have to jump over those hurdles to make sure we do well in sport and in life. And the guest I have on hopefully inspire you to do the very same. And my guest today, I'm very proud to have him on again, is Kyle and Brent Pease. Hello, brothers.
Hello, Mike.
It's good to see you, Mike.
Good to see you guys. Well, the Pease brothers are four-time Ironman finishers. They did the 2018 Ironman World Championship in Kona, which we'll talk about. And they just recently ran the Boston Marathon. Hey, congratulations on that. That's great.
It was outside of Kona. It was one of the best days as an athlete. So it was a joy to always share that with my brother and to bring a couple of athletes from the Kyle Pease Foundation as well.
And it's interesting because I've talked to so many people that have done Boston that are triathletes. They say the very same thing, Kyle. Oh my gosh, this was like Ironman, because even though it's just a marathon, obviously you're just running the 26.2, not just, but the aura and the spirit and the passion of the event really is on that Ironman level. There's no doubt about that. I want to touch on this right away, Brent, because before the broadcast started, you told me that you're sequestered, your wife has COVID, you know, are keeping away from the family. You're testing negative every day, which you're doing. And but how's your children? How's your son?
Everybody's good so far. We're just keeping an eye on things, and I'm able to keep training, or right now just recover from Boston. So we're just keeping an eye on it. It's really unfortunate. Thankfully, my wife has mild symptoms right now, but you know, this is the world we live in. I mean, you know, we were worried about this, you know, even just traveling to Boston, having to get on planes and do things that we weren't doing a year ago. And hopefully it stays that way, because Kyle and I are looking forward to continuing to be able to do this stuff together. We really, really missed that stuff last year.
And that has to be a concern, because Kyle obviously has cerebral palsy, and you want to make sure that his immune system stays strong and obviously doesn't catch COVID. So when you found out some in your family had it, was that a concern for you?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it was, I mean, at the beginning last year of all this, you know, the only time Kyle and I saw each other was after like 2 months, and I was sitting in a car in a mask, and Kyle was in a parking lot, you know, 10 feet away in a mask, because we just did not want to get Kyle sick. And we still didn't even know what was going on. I mean, thankfully, we just got a 26.2 mile training session in together. So I think if I'm able to keep training the next couple of weeks, even if we can't get, this is normally the time when we'd be spending more time together training, that we've gotten enough in that Kyle should be physically ready. He's always mentally ready, but we'll just keep an eye on things. We won't get together until we know that it's safe. And Kyle's even tested a couple of times as well, just to make sure, since obviously we were right on top of each other for 3 hours on Monday.
Right. Well, I have to tell you too, right up front on your book, Beyond the Finish, which I adore, Kyle, you wrote an inscription in here. In the inscription at the end, you said, "Find your finish." I was thinking about the title for the show as "Find Your Finish Line," and I have to tell you, that prompted me to say, well, that's it. I mean, find your finish line. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Can you believe since 2011, when you guys did your first triathlon at St. Anthony's down in Florida, and here it is, 2021, 10 years later, that you would have accomplished everything that you've accomplished thus far? 10 years, that's gone by, hasn't it?
Yeah, it feels like just yesterday I asked my brother in Louisville, because people in wheelchairs do Ironmans, there's not a day that doesn't go by where I'm grateful for Bray and what we have accomplished together. Especially in Boston this past week, everything kind of came full circle. With the passing of Dick Hoyt and everything that he had done for the sport. It really was a true honor to race in Boston in the race over the past 10 years with my brother.
Yeah, that's it. It's a special bond, and I love seeing it. And more brothers and sisters and family members need to have that type of bond. But your family, but your family has been your foundation for your success. From everything from the inclusivity of playing games together. You even said your mom and dad were your first coaches for you and Brent and your brother Evan. How do you believe that foundation has made you into the person you are today?
I mean, they just started it from day one, that Kyle was going to be included. I mean, when Kyle was born in 1985, and even in 1985, there was always discussions around, the life that Kyle would have if he would live and, live past 10, if he would live in a home or a group home. I mean, those were the conversations that people were still having. And, my parents never hesitated that Kyle would live a normal life and do everything that everybody else did. And so that was always the example. And when Kyle and I wrote that inscription or the dedication in the front of our book, we both instantly knew that was it. And when we started doing sports, our mom or our dad were the ones that taught us how to do it and that pushed us to do it and that encouraged us to include Kyle. And so that foundation is something that when we look back on it, when we think about not just the last 10 years, but our entire lives, of this is what it's really all been about including and living and finding that finish.
Yeah, I mean, our mom, I know we started before the podcast talking about the Braves and the Dodgers playing in the NLCS, and I remember our mom taught us how to keep score. And of course, nobody keeps score now unless you're a broadcaster, but our mom gave us that foundation. It gave us the love of sports. So, I still remember putting a K in the scorebook and all of that. So, good times.
Well, I know exactly what you're talking about, being in a baseball family of keeping the book. And I'm trying to pass that on to my grandchildren who are playing baseball at 6 and 3 years old. So keeping the book has to live on. Thank goodness for your mom teaching you guys that. That is great. But mom and dad probably never envisioned Ironman, did they? I mean,
I don't think that was. I mean, my mom was a runner, but she never did half marathons or marathons. I mean, she just ran for fitness. And so I don't think there was ever visions of doing a marathon or an Ironman or anything like that, or even a 10K, but that I'm glad we found it because we found a way to tap into Kyle's competitive spirit. We found a way to enjoy something together that we get to still spend time with each other. I mean, we might have to suffer a little bit to enjoy it, but it's a special thing that we've really stumbled into here. And, even if we didn't come from a family of endurance athletes, we certainly came from a sports family. Although my dad does have the claim to fame of winning a 1 mile bike race in a pair of Chuck Taylors, as he likes to still brag about to this day.
You know how many people out there go, what are Chuck Taylors?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when you did your first triathlon at St. Anthony's in Florida, when I see the pictures, you guys, of the bike, and you wanted to have, Kyle to be up front, which is fantastic.
Right.
But the thing looked like it weighed 4,000 pounds. Tell us about pushing that thing around.
I mean, the joke now is that it was an ice cream truck. I mean, the bars were in my armpits. For the tech savvy folks, Mike, it had an 8-gear internal hub, which itself was like 30 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
So I think it was about 400 pounds of rolling weight between the two of us and all that steel. But it's one of the most amazing experiences we've ever, and we didn't know any better. We had never done anything like this. And so if you told me that I had to ride that bike in Hawaii or Florida or anywhere else, I'd tell you I'm retiring and I'm done with the sport. But it was just such an amazing experience just to be able to do that and to say we were doing it. But yeah, we look back and we still own that bike. And it is, I don't even know how we finished the triathlon when I ride that thing now.
Kyle, I've talked to a lot of athletes like yourself who are in that bike or in that chair and you're up front, and you are competing. Take us through that in your mind, how you are competing in that race, just like Brent is, because you are.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a good jockey. I have to focus on my body first, making sure that, I don't spasm or, making sure that I feel comfortable or as comfortable as I can, because nobody is comfortable with the bike after 8 hours. But, I'm there to encourage Brent and to help him focus on the task at hand and get to go through mile by mile. If you look at it, 112 miles can be very overwhelming. And I like to break it down and to focus on the next mile. So when we get to mile 1, let's focus on 2, and then, focus on every mile instead of focusing on the 8-hour day.
I mean, Kyle's still sore from Boston. It beats his body up something else too, because he sits in that wheelchair for 16, 18 hours a day. And so to ask his body, sometimes it's hard for people to see that, but they also don't have to live the life that Kyle lives. They don't sit in that wheelchair all day long. And so then to get out of that chair and to push himself through 140.6 miles of racing, it beats him up. And I think, the other part too, and Mike, I think you said this to us last year when we were all talking, is that the amount of mental energy that Kyle exhausts in these races there's not a lot of people that experience that on a race course. I certainly don't. But, Kyle has to always be positive. He can never look at me and go, I want to quit. He's always trying to talk me into pushing myself a little harder. I mean, he was at Boston on Monday. I could hear him over the crowds because he was screaming so loud at me, trying to get me up those hills, up to Newton. And imagine how hard that is mentally, not to mention the physical stuff he's experiencing. And so it's always fun for me after the fact to be able to kind of relive those moments, to realize how hard he pushes himself to get to that finish line too.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that too, about the conversation you two had with one another, some aggressive conversation and loving conversation in Kona. But after St. Anthony's, Kyle, 2 years later, you guys found yourself at the start line of Ironman Wisconsin for your first Ironman. Who made that decision between you two? Hey, let's do an Ironman.
Well, not this guy. I can tell you that. Wisconsin was such a special race, and it will be one that will go in the memory book for sure. Just the crowd and the atmosphere, and just be there with somebody that you love so much, Brett, and just really accomplishing something and showing people what is possible. After all, that's what Ironman mantra is anything is possible, and I believe that I'm a living example of that every day.
Well, just to be able to do that first race in St. Anthony's was the first. Well, really, Louisville was the first eye opener. Just watching and experiencing that, and so as we finished St. Anthony's, it was like, well, let's try something a little bit harder. Let's see if we can do that. And so we did New Orleans 70.3, and we just kept pushing the envelope for us. It's where we were capable of 70 miles of racing, and we just kind of kept building up. And when it got to 2013, it was time to sign up for races. We said, let's try it. And that just began the conversation of, well, we need time to train. We need to find the right race. And, before we knew it, we were signed up and training for our first Ironman. So I don't think that moment was the spark of hey, we're doing an Ironman. I think it was, we just finished a 10K. Let's see if we can go further this time. Let's see if we can go harder.
immediately after I saw Brett do Louisville, I went on YouTube and just started watching the horse and what they did, and it was just amazing. And I wanted to be a Kona, and so it just really inspired me to become an athlete. And to do it with somebody you love is very special.
Yeah, and you guys didn't exactly pick the easiest bike course with Wisconsin either, did
No,
you?
No, but you know what, Mike? I think Kyle and I have had a lot of good fortune in the 10 years that we've done this. And, Wisconsin was kind of the option that was given to us just at the time, what Ironman felt most comfortable having teams like us on a course. And I'm really glad that that was our first one, because we really got to understand what we needed to be able to one day go to Kona. Because once we signed up for Wisconsin, we knew we were going to try and get into Kona. And so we had that experience. We had wind at Ironman Florida the following year, and we got to experience what it was like trying to bike with Kyle in windy conditions. And, we did hot races, and we everything we experienced, we would always come back. I remember after Wisconsin, I said to our bike mechanic, I said, this guy Curtis who builds the bikes, I said, Curtis, we'll never finish Hawaii on this bike. We have to go back to the drawing board. And after we did Florida with the wind, I said, Curtis, we'll never finish Hawaii if there's wind that day without a different bike setup. And so everything we did, you talk about athletes, like Kyle's having these conversations with people, with mechanics, with coaches, figuring out one day we're going to be in Hawaii, we're going to be on the Big Island, and we're going to finish that race, one way or the other. Let's make sure everything else is taken care of.
Wow, that's something else, because we tend to forget about all the ancillary things that we as athletes do, but you guys, it's like double or tripled because of the logistics of it all. That's just amazing to me. And then you get to Kona, 2018. You were like two kids in a candy store on that island, weren't you? Before that race.
It absolutely. We were fans of, we wanted to seek you out. We wanted to talk to the pros. We wanted to, our crew that was with us had to keep making us go back to our hotel to rest because we wanted to experience everything. Because we didn't know if we'd ever go back again. We thought this might be the one and only opportunity we get, and we want to soak it up. We wanted to go to the underpants run, and we wanted to go to, Lava Java and the Expo, everything, and we just didn't want to miss it. And you're right. I mean, we were two kids in a candy store in one of the best playgrounds I've ever been to.
Yeah, and being a part of Rick and Dick Hoyt, who obviously you guys know the history and inspiration for you, we all wanted to be a part of your journey too on that island, because you're continuing that tradition of those two finishing that race, father, son, and now brother. We couldn't, as fans, we couldn't have asked for more. But then there's race day and there's race morning, and Kyle, you know how nervous Brent was. I think he almost wanted to throw up. He's crying in the water. The guy's he's a mess at the beginning of the race. How did you? How were you able to calm your brother, because you know him better than anybody?
Yeah, I think by the time we got in the water, a big wave came crashing over me, and that really overwhelmed me. And it got me nervous the whole time before. I would just, try to stay calm and stay quiet. And before a race, believe it or not, me and Brett, we really don't say a whole lot to each other until, we get in the swim. And when we got in the swim, I knew it was go time. And Brett said a couple words to me. Now, I don't know whether he cried or not, but that's up for debate. But I knew that when we got out to a calmer water, that we had to really focus on the task at hand, and that was each other and the amazing course that Kona has to offer.
Mike, Kyle does this thing that I don't think he realizes, because he gets so intense. And it's this really exciting thing for him because he knows what he's about to put himself through. And he had on his fancy Oakley shades because we knew he was going to be staring at the sun for an hour and change. But I could feel his eyes burning through the glasses. And as I was getting emotional, and like you said, I mean, I was a nervous wreck. I could barely swallow. And he just looked at me and was like, "You got it. You're ready." And I could just feel that. And that became the calming presence of, no matter what happens today, I can lean on that young man in front of me. And I can watch his determination every time I get nervous or scared or struggle. And it's the beauty of the partnership we have as athletes. And it's just our relationship as brothers. It's what we've experienced together our whole lives, whether it was playing in the street, whether it was a birthday party, just things that we experienced as kids. It comes out on the race course, and his intensity is pretty incredible to watch for sure. And it's always a calming presence.
But then, guys, remember, it's Kona, and you've got a beast of a bike course out there. You've got the climb to Hawi. You're going to experience things, and you knew that, experience something that you had never experienced before together. Take us through that process of that. It was like 2-hour climb, get up to Hawi, and how you were, you were even chanting the engine that could. I think I can. I think I can. And Kyle, you were saying some stuff to Brent because you knew he needed your mental strength and your words.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the hardest part of the day, was going up that 2-hour climb. And I remember saying, I think I can, and as we started going up the hill and I noticed that our speed was getting slower, I started getting louder and louder and louder because I knew that we could do this. I knew that, we wanted it for 8 years. We wanted to be a part of the Super Bowl of Ironman. So I knew I had to, put my best wheel forward and just enjoy the moment and soak it all up, soak everything up about what the Iron had to offer.
It was the one place on the course. I mean, we were fortunate in 2018 that the winds weren't very high that day, but the one place where we felt it was going up to Hawi. And whether they were blowing at 100 miles an hour or 5 miles an hour, it wouldn't have mattered because we could just feel that intensity. We could feel that intensity while we were on the bike, and we could feel that wind. And so it was just really challenging for us going through that stretch of road. And, Kyle got louder and louder and pushed harder and harder. And there was even times where there was a little bit of frustration between us, but Kyle shifted it really quickly by starting over. And so he went from yelling back to just talking to me quietly. And that just became the dialogue, whatever it took to get through that stretch of road.
But what I found so precious, obviously family members, and I'll point out brothers don't tell each other they love one another as much as they should. And that's the type of questions you were asking one another. Do you love me? Kyle, you even asked Brent, why do you love your wife? I mean, that's pretty deep conversation when you're out there on the lava fields. How'd you feel that was going to help you?
I felt like we had done so many. This was our fourth Ironman, and we had been through it all so many times. And I just felt like a lot of times it's just the motivating stuff. It's just the little engine that could. It's the cheers and the chants and the yells. And I had actually said to my coach before, I said, I kind of want to ask Kyle something a little bit deeper, because I know the emotion that Kyle shares with himself and with a lot of other people around him. And he doesn't always share that part of himself with me on a race course. We do it off the course. And when I first asked him that, I could sense the frustration, but then, what I said was, Kyle, why do you love me? And wow. It was almost like, what are you asking me this for? We're in the middle of a championship race. But then he realized what was happening and he shifted. He said, well, tell me why you love your wife. And then all of a sudden we both relaxed. And this was kind of right before the big parts of the descent coming down from Hawi. And right as we were starting it, as we were finishing that dialogue, I said, well, Kyle, look at the ocean, look at this view. And then Kyle did that his determination. He said, okay, it's time to focus. And then that became our mantra for the back half of that bike course, where every time one of us would drift and we would go some other direction, the other person would just say really loudly, focus. Kyle said, what mile are we at? And I said, focus. We're at mile 100. And then I said, hey, we're at mile 105. He said, that's great. Focus. So it became, but it helped us get to that place. And so, whether it was a good idea or a bad idea, it doesn't matter, because it just worked for us. And shoot, I mean, people ask us a lot. They'll say, well, how did you get through Boston? Or what did you, I was like, the conversation shifts every single time. And it's not this one thing that works for us every single time. Sometimes Kyle will start to chant the little engine that could, and I want to take his helmet off and say, stop it. I've had enough of this little engine. But, so was it the right moment? I think looking back, it was, because I got to hear the things that I knew, and Kyle got to hear things about me that he hadn't heard me say out loud. And it was just a special part of that race course for us both.
And it was special finish, bringing you guys in and being able to see the looks of the people in the crowd, all the spectators, and the appreciation of it all. Did that moment sink in for you, Kyle, right away, or was it a little while after, like, oh my gosh, we did Kona? When did that moment sink for you?
When I heard your voice. No, like every finish line is magical, but there's something about Kona, and I say this when we speak to groups, that I've never been able to walk, but when I was going through the red carpet in Kona, I could feel the vibration through the wheel that would go into every part of my body, from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. Like, I could feel the vibration. And that's when it clicked, like, wow, we did this. And we did this together. And it's something that I don't take for granted, because I don't know if our opportunity will present itself again. But it was just one of those moments that you want to bottle up and you want to put in your back pocket. So when you do have down days, which we all do, I can throw upon that Kona finish and hear your voice, just makes it all better.
Appreciate that. It makes us better, Kyle. Always know that and remember that. Hold on, everyone. We'll be right back after a message from our sponsors. As an endurance athlete, you're constantly pushing your body to new limits, searching for your personal best, for the next finish line. If you're training for an endurance event, whether short distance or long distance, proper recovery is the key to you unlocking your potential. As the official topical pain relief partner for the IRONMAN US series, Active Ice's lineup of topical cooling gel, roll-on and spray features 8% menthol and eucalyptus oil to provide the instant icy relief you need to recover smarter and faster. The water-based non-sticky formula withstands sweat to keep up with the demands and exertion of race day. Don't let muscle pain or sprains hold you back from reaching your potential, from reaching your personal best. Shop the Active Ice's lineup on Amazon today for the support you need to find your finish line. Brent, something you wrote or said, it could have been in the book, about how, you give your legs to Kyle, but he gives you his spirit. And I want to tell you, I think each and every athlete out there that's racing by themselves wish they had someone in their lives like a Brent and Kyle to be able to get them through 140.6 miles. But now you guys, after Boston, that's not enough. You're coming back and you're doing Ironman Florida. Where was the decision process to do another Ironman this year? Huh?
That's a great question, because I told Fred after we finished it in 2014, that there was no way that I would do that race again. But here we are now. So,
It was when we did it in 14, Mike, it's the hardest day we've ever had on a race course. I mean, it was just brutal conditions. It was in the 30s. The wind was gusting up to 40 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour. It was just a really challenging day. But what actually happened is we've got a group of guys here that are big supporters of our foundation, and they've been doing Ironman Florida for several years now. And the Kyle Pease Foundation was struggling with our fundraising earlier in the year, as a lot of nonprofits were. It was just, without getting into it too much, just a lot of nonprofits saw a big drop off at the beginning of this year. And so as we were trying to come up with ideas and watching races get canceled, races that we would typically raise money for, one of the guys in this group, who also happens to have a daughter with cerebral palsy, he said, well, let's go ahead and do Ironman Florida. He said, I want you to call them and see if we can do the charity bib program. So we reached out and they had opportunities available. So we bought the charity bibs and we sold them out in about 2 days. We couldn't believe our luck. So he says, call back, see if you can get some more bibs, but tell them you're not going to do that unless they let you and Kyle race. And so I called back and said, here's what we're thinking. Kyle and I would actually like to race now. And I don't know if that's an opportunity, and we'd also like to buy some more bibs because we've run out. And they said, okay, well, let us check. We need to check with the folks here just from a safety perspective. And they came back and they said, you guys can race. We're going to let you help us figure out if this is a course that's viable for more teams to come behind you and do this race again. And so it wasn't, and then of course, all that has happened, and I haven't even talked to Kyle yet. So I called Kyle, I was like, hey, by the way, we're going to raise $150,000. We got 15 people racing. And oh, by the way, you and I are athletes number 14 and athletes number 15. Are you okay? And Kyle goes, what about Boston? I said, no, we'll do it after Boston. So, how we felt on Tuesday, probably weren't thinking that was a great idea. But, today, now we're just energized because it is special for us to be able to race with people. I mean, one of the things that made Kona so special is with all of our family and all the supporters from our group here in Atlanta, there was over 70 people on the island there to cheer us on and support us in a lot of different ways. And now we're going to be down there with 15 people that have helped bridge the fundraising gap, that are supporting more inclusive opportunities for people like Kyle. And it motivates us to be excited about that opportunity, to want to do the opportunity again. And so just do us a favor, Mike, and please make sure it's not 39 degrees.
I'll bring San Diego weather, I promise.
Thank you.
And Kyle, the Kyle Pease Foundation, you thought about that and started that early on, about 9 years ago or so. And what was probably the biggest reason why you believed you and Brent needed to have a foundation?
I think I wanted to start it because I wanted to give other people with disabilities hope and to show them what was possible. So that's why I started. Yes, we have a mission to improve the lives of people with disabilities through sports. But my goal is when they cross the finish line at any one of our races, is to see them smile and to forget about their disability for a couple of hours. That's why I started. And it gave me so much joy, and I'm so proud of all of our athletes who are associated with the foundation.
Well, Kyle, when I, knowing you and thinking about, the toughness of your life compared to so many others, you said one time that every day for you can be an Ironman. And when you just said, you wanted to give people a chance to smile for a few hours because they finished a race and stuff like that, that is fantastic. But is every day an Ironman for you?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely, without a doubt. Without a doubt. We all go through highs and lows, and some of our lows are more noticeable than others. But that's why I have my brother and my family and people like Emily, who you met earlier, to, just be there for support. And I'm so grateful for everybody that's in my life.
Well, Brent, this journey, because you've always talked about the journey being the ultimate of everything. Do you appreciate the journey more than the finish line?
A lot. I mean, they're both special, but what I experienced with Kyle and Kona was the culmination of 7 years of being together in ways that a lot of people in their 30s are not. Siblings, families, and training together all summer in Georgia was a wonderful way to spend time with Kyle and get to talk and live and just experience life together. And so in a lot of ways, that's a sweeter part of this whole experience. Being in Boston with Kyle, the marathon was special, but what was also great was being and having dinner together every night and waking up and, having breakfast in the lobby together. And, those are the memories that I think about as we're crossing the finish line. That finish line in Kona was hard. And finding that finish was so difficult, more difficult than either of us had ever imagined. And what I was thinking about coming down that chute was being together in August in the Georgia heat, of picking Kyle up and carrying him when he was 6 years old, and just all those things flooded. And it was, this massive emotional experience. So the finish line isn't just this one moment for me. It's a culmination of everything that took us to get there. And I think that's what keeps us coming back, because we get to add another story, another journey to the Team Pease narrative.
And Mike, I think one thing that really stood out where we were in Kona, that one of our athletes with the Kyle Pease Foundation tested me and Brent and said, "You're in the World Championships, we're all in the World Championships." So that was it was a lot of pressure, but it was good pressure, that that we have a whole nother community within the foundation that looked up to us, and they want the best for us as well. And that was a very cool story to be a part of.
Yeah, and the Ironman Ohana, as you know, is one very strong, passionate, tight-knit group. And thank goodness for that, because we're all so inclusive and are able to, if we're not with one another physically, we are definitely always with one another mentally. And that even helps me get through so many days. Hey guys, who's your favorite pros in the sport? Who do you look up to and go, "Oh my gosh, look at her, look at him"? You have any?
We're both big Lucy Charles fans, but we're
that's a shocker.
We're still big Craig Alexander fans. I know he's not racing Ironman anymore, but he's always been so wonderful to Kyle. And I remember being in Kona in 19, and we were walking down Aliti Drive, and we saw Craig, and we both waved to him. We already knew each other. And he stopped and he walked across the street and started talking to Kyle. And then I watched these two world champion athletes talking about the Ironman in Hawaii, and it was surreal to be standing there. So there's still part of us that remembers those athletes from 10 years ago that were motivating us then. But, being a part of the current crop of pro triathletes, it's still fun for us to fan out, especially when we're not racing and we can watch their amazing performances.
How about you, Kyle?
Oh yeah, without a doubt, Tio. I'm a big fan for you, Tio. I think that I think he embraces the sport, and he loves the sport, and what he is doing to represent the country at every Ironman that he does is special, and I get to root for him and Rennie all the time. I think they're wonderful ambassadors for the sport.
That they certainly are. Tim O'Donnell and Craig Alexander, Lucy Charles. It's a great crop. We are blessed to have them as part of our sport. Hey, Brent, what do you want your children to learn from Uncle Kyle?
That's a great question, because I think about it all the time. I just hope they realize that everybody has something to offer, and everybody deserves to be treated as good as anybody else, as everybody else. And to be able to see Kyle, they were at the finish line in Boston, and it's really the first race that they've been at. And with as many people as there were, we heard them. And we went running over, and they were so happy to see Uncle Kyle and their dad getting ready to cross the finish line. It was like we had just won the world's. I mean, it didn't matter that there was 20,000 other runners. It just mattered that, and so I just think it's so important for them to see that, everybody has a purpose, everybody has something to offer, and not leaving somebody like Kyle behind is a really important and valuable lesson that I can share with them on a daily basis.
And Kyle, what message would you want to pass on to your nephew's niece?
That anything is possible. They're just great kids. And I love them. And to watch my brother become a dad, and to work with his wife so well on just raising great kids, and really be inclusive with all people, whether it's me or somebody that looks different than me. It always amazes me at how smart these two young kids are, and I'm just proud to be their uncle.
It's one of the when my nephews and nieces call me Uncle Mike, it's precious. It's the best, Kyle. I know you appreciate that. Well, on Find Your Finish Line, I have a final question, and it comes out of I have dear friends that race the Baja 1000 in trophy trucks, 1,000 miles over the desert down in Baja, Mexico. But afterwards, they get together and they call it table racing, where they reminisce about the event, what went on, what good, what bad things. So I call this tri-table racing. I want you guys, I know we've talked a lot about events you've done and everything, but think about something during an event that came along funny or sad or whatever that you can reminisce with us. Either one of you can start. Tri-table racing.
Well, yeah, the one that Kyle and I just talked about was we did this off-brand half iron distance race in Goose Pond, Alabama, and it was on open roads. And so they gave us 4 bike escorts. They were wonderful people, but one of the escorts that was with us, she talked, and Kyle and I were on the bike for almost 5 hours that day, and she talked the entire time. And Kyle and I kept laughing every time she would get in front of us, because she would start to drift over the yellow line because she was still talking. And so we still laugh about that because she's safe, and she became a huge supporter of everything that we do. But I just remember that first race being like, oh my God, Kyle, we can never do a race on open roads again. This is wild. And she had a lot of jokes and a lot of stories. So Kyle and I were having a good laugh about that one the other day.
So she was on the bike like next to you or what?
Next to us. Then she'd get in front of us, and then she'd drift over the yellow line because she wanted to keep talking. Or she'd get behind us, and it was windy, and I would say, I can't hear you. So instead of blocking behind to the traffic, she'd bike up next to us again to finish telling her story. So for 4 hours and 45, I've never been so excited to start a run because of the conversations we were having. So that was a funny experience for both of us.
What about you, Kyle?
I think for me, it will make Brett laugh. We did, Brett helped me out with the race that we did at Tallahassee, the ultra distance.
Oh yeah, it was our first ultra. We did a 50K in Tallahassee.
And they were great folks. They really rolled out the red carpet before us. But I'm telling you, people that do ultra distance are so weird people. And I know I may get in trouble for saying that, but that's not my thing. But what I did discover was how much I loved Tab, the soda Tab, and Skittles. So that's one of my race day.
You cannot find Tab anywhere, by the way, which was like the original Diet Coke.
I know when Kyle said Tab, I go, is he talking about that old soft drink back in the day?
So in Georgia and North Florida, like up until maybe 2015, you could still find tab in certain places. And so we're doing this ultra, and Kyle's listening to these conversations these people are having, and he's like, oh my God. He's like, I thought we were weird for wanting to do Ironmans. And we got to the first aid station, and he was like, well, what do they have? I'm hungry. I go, they got tab and they got Skittles. He goes, sounds good. And the rest of the day, Kyle drank sugar water and ate sugar. And we still talk about that, but we bring Skittles, and then we'll bring soda to every race. So our special needs bags at every Ironman since 2011 have a soda and have a bag of Skittles in there just in case we need a little extra sugar.
You do know it's not the real deal unless you have tab, don't you?
You can't. I'll tell you where they don't have tab is Kona, Hawaii.
No, I haven't seen it like forever. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Those are great tri-table topic stories. Thank you for sharing that, because everybody seems to come up with this funny antidote to a race. And I always believe you got to smile and laugh at yourself out there. It makes the day go by a little quicker, doesn't it, boys?
It does.
Yes, it does.
Well, I know you're pushing through some tough stuff right now, Brent, with the COVID and the family. And are you two, before Florida, going to be able to get together and do a little more training together?
We'll see what next week looks like. As long as I'm still negative, we'll figure out. We'll do something provided I stay negative. So we got to get another bike ride in together.
Yeah, at least one more bike ride, huh, Kyle?
Oh yeah.
And you always have my permission to push your brother as hard as you want. All right.
I can assure you on Monday that there was. As Kyle described himself as a good jockey, he had his whip out on Monday.
Good for him. Yeah. Well, guys, it's always a pleasure to be amongst your presence. I can't wait to see you both at Ironman Florida. The best of luck with your training up until then, and stay healthy, and always know that finish line, and I'll be waiting for you. How's that?
Can't wait, Mike. We really appreciate your friendship and and what you do for me, but I think you'll never know what you do, but hearing your voice, it's like a calming presence. Knowing it's the edge of the race for one, but knowing that we have a friend in you is very special to the both of us.
Amen. I agree to that.
Thank you very much, guys. Bless you for that. Well, what a fantastic edition of Find Your Finish Line, everybody, presented by Active Ice, the official topical pain relief partner of Ironman. You know, if you want to subscribe, please do. Leave us a review for the podcast. I'd certainly appreciate to read those. But always remember, family is everything. You keep that family close to you, it creates success in your life beyond your wildest dreams. Take care of yourself, everybody. And as always, my warmest aloha.